As you probably know, an entire race of strange little beings has invaded the Clan Center building. And in an even more bizarre twist, one of the creatures... Creatures? Is that accurate? Mm-hmm. That one of these creatures is somehow able to talk, and he's going to talk with us right now. I think the main question that people have is, creature, what is it that you want?
Fred, what we want is, I think, what everyone wants, and what you and your viewers have. Civilization.
Yes, but what sort of civilization are you speaking of, creature?
The niceties, Fred, the fine points. Diplomacy, compassion, standards, manners, tradition. That's what we're reaching toward. Oh, we may stumble along the way, but civilization, yes. The Geneva Convention, chamber music, Susan Sontag. Everything your society has worked so hard to accomplish over the centuries, that's what we aspire to. We want to be civilized. I mean, you take a look at this trail here. Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized.
Welcome to this week's episode of Two Guys and Some Horror. This week we are excited to be recording the season finale of season 2. It's been a long time coming. Clark and I have obviously we've had this planned for quite a while, but due to some unforeseen events in real life, are just now finally recording this after Christmas. So unfortunately, it took some time to get this episode recorded, edited, and out to you. But here it is. It's here. Happy New Year, folks. So Clark and I are going to be discussing Gremlins 2, the new batch. I have mixed opinions on this film, and I hope to hear Clark's opinion in more detail as well as we go on throughout the episode. So first thing I'd like to do is just say, Clark, welcome. How are you? How you been, buddy?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you for asking.
Doing good. Much better now. Cool. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of break down the film, just some information about the film like we normally do. And then we'll get into discussing different areas of the film that we really enjoyed, maybe didn't enjoy, maybe we thought could have been different or better. So the film was released in 1990, 6 years after the original film. The director is Joe Dante again, with Chuck Jones, who was uncredited. Our writer was Charles S. Haas. And it stars most of our cast from the previous film. So Zach Galligan comes back as Billy. Phoebe Cates comes back as the girlfriend. John Glover's back, or John Glover comes in to play our owner. This film also has Sir Christopher Lee in it, which is pretty cool. Dick Miller comes back, and Howie Mandel comes back as the voice of Gizmo, which is nice to see the continuity there. The budget for the film was $50 million. And this film's story is that the Gremlins are back, but this time they've taken control of a New York City media mogul's high-tech skyscraper.
It's meant to be Donald Trump.
So I think the best place to start with this discussion may be let's talk about this skyscraper for a minute. Let's talk about all the fancy gadgets, the who's it's, the what's it's, how it works, all the crazy shit that goes on inside of this tower.
Right. So this is an attempt. They took a lot of liberties with trying to duplicate Trump Tower and saying, okay, so we're gonna kind of characterize Donald Trump in this big, because back then in the 90s and the 80s, he was this big mogul, like real estate mogul. He was like, I make big deals and I win big, and people kind of took it and his persona as larger than life, and they kind of characterized him in this movie as Clamp.
Yeah, so the
and
tower
their
itself
technology
is insane. Yeah, it's filled with so many technology advancements, and it's your typical, in my opinion, when you look at it, it's your typical corporate. When you think of the word corporate office, it has everything that a corporate office has. It's got the standard cubicles, which are, for anyone who doesn't work in cubicles are usually considered ways to silo yourself off and kind of segment yourself and keep you separate from others, so there's no distractions or too much conversation going on or anything like that. But they even go like to the next degree. And each of those cubicles has to be a specific setup. Everything is standardized. There's no deviation from the standard, which makes me actually kind of chuckle because, Clark and I worked together at a place a little over a year ago where we all had cubicles, but they were low wall cubicles. They weren't like the high wall cubicles. We still conversed. It was a software company, so they actually want you to talk to your coworkers, and they actually want you to work out different solutions and whatever. But it's like the exact opposite. So when I look at like Gremlins 2 Skyscraper company, it's like the exact opposite of the company that we worked at together, which is kind of neat. The art on the wall had to be, professional, highbrow art, and it had to be all standard color coded and whatever. Yeah. So for those of you
Talking about the
watching or
clamp
listening
building.
along, I just had some technical difficulties with my headset, so I had to switch it, and we're coming back. And I believe where I left off was talking about the technology advancement inside the skyscraper, specifically the doors that they have, because that's one of the first things we're introduced to is the pushy gentleman who comes in the building but pushes Phoebe
He
Cates' character
deserved it.
away, and then actually gets trapped in the door, and he ends up spinning so fast in the revolving door that it actually throws him out of it into another lady, knocks her over. And that's kind of, I think, a really good way to just picture this building. It's got all these technology advancements. It's fancy, whatever, but it doesn't really work great. Not everything inside of this building is actually that phenomenal.
State of the
out a
art.
term there. It's totally
Corporate.
state of the art. I think they like to pride themselves that it's the best of the best and that all these things are amazing. But really, at the end of the day, it's a pretty shitty system.
They
It doesn't
show
work
everything.
for you. But yeah, so that's the building. That's kind of that's actually where the film takes place, primarily. We do get some other scenery. The movie opens with our original old man store owner, Mr. Wing, played by Key Luke, who, just so everyone knows, he ends up getting sick. He ends up dying. And then that's how Daniel Clamp's character is able to buy out that last piece of land to then start expanding his Clamp empire in the city. That's how Gizmo ends up winding up back in the hands of normal, citizens, I'd say. And that's really where I guess the movie kind of picks up and takes off.
So going back to the clamp tower, like you were saying, everything was kind of state of the art and was dysfunctional. And you were talking about earlier kind of the corporatized behavior of the company. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, especially with you have the guy who's taking the cigarette break, and then you have like the people in the security room. They're like, "Sir, it's a code 9. We need to take care of this," and they fire him over that cigarette break, just showing him on kind of how cutthroat and how corporate they are. Really trying to dig into all of that BS fake personality.
Yeah, definitely.
No. So they really set the tone here in the film. Like you said, Gizmo is with Mr. Wing, and unfortunately he loses his master and goes on an adventure in the big city, and that's when the story begins of how Gizmo gets introduced to Clamp Tower with
And
the two twin brothers.
That's how we get a really fun video game that you should play instead of watching this film, because the film's really not that great.
So he walks up to the gremlin or Gizmo and he says, "Oh, it's like I always said, you have to go downtown to find something really weird." He picks up Gizmo, takes him into the Clamp Tower.
Yeah, so he takes him to the tower, but they don't really explain how the relationship between Sir Christopher Lee's character, so the weird scientist guy, and how that they're basically renting a space inside of Clamp Towers, and they're their own entity. They're not owned by Clamp Towers. They're not funded by them. They're just renting a space inside of this giant building. And later on, we actually get a really funny, really funny comment from Clamp about how we could have had, a plastic surgeon a doctor and an eye doctor. So I don't know. He has like some weird, three things he could have filled into that space instead of having this crazy ass doctor who runs the DNA splicing business that's there. But they don't really explain like the relationship between Clamp Towers and that guy very well, or how Gizmo really winds up going to them.
Yeah.
The guy,
Well, this movie,
go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, well, this movie's Looney Tunes. Like, you can't take anything in it seriously at all. You have cartoon noises here and there. The way the Gremlins act now compared to the first film, like we had a couple cartoon noises, but now it's just completely off the wall, legitimate Looney Tunes with Warner Brothers. And you could kind of tell that they just did whatever they wanted to do. They're like, well, we're just going to shove this guy in here for no reasons. Like the movie breaks the fourth wall like twice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all that was done on purpose. It was, the background behind the film is Joe Dante, the director. That was his idea.
Right.
He didn't want to make another Gremlins, but when he was approached, they said, you could do whatever you want with it. Whatever you want. We just want a Gremlins 2. We want a sequel to the film that so many people loved. So he decided, I want to make a much more family-friendly, fun version of Gremlins. And so that's just what he did. He decided, screw it. We're going to make this thing way more comical and cartoony than the original. And we're going to do all the same stuff that, we wanted to do or tried to do in the first one, but even better. And that's where you get all that, comic-y kind of style, the audio even. The intro is straight up Looney Tunes. It is Bugs Bunny. It was released on Bugs Bunny's 50th birthday. So they definitely had to do a hat tip there.
Intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, right at the intro. Daffy Duck. Yeah.
We do get some fourth wall breaking throughout the film as well, which is nice.
Definitely. I thought it was, for what this film is and what they're doing, it's amusing. Is it something I would watch all the time? Maybe. I don't know. Not. But I know that it sounds like you had a bit more of a negative reaction to this than me, Curtis, and I guess we can dig into that.
I wouldn't call it negative, but I definitely don't think that this is, as good of a film as the first one. And there's so many people out there that try to defend Gremlins 2 and how good it is and how much more fun it is, and they're not wrong. That's exactly what it is, but that's not what. If I picked up a Gremlins film, whether it be the original or the sequel, I'm not necessarily looking for the fun in it, right? I'm not looking for a comedy.
Yeah.
I'm looking for more of a horror film, and that's not really this film.
I would argue with you on that. I would say this definitely is not a horror film. Like when I used to, especially in the first season, I was like, is this really horror? This question with this movie would be no. It takes horror very minimally. Like there are these creatures and they're not leaving this building except for one, and it gets sunblock and it's completely immune. That's absolutely terrifying. They do nothing with that for the rest of the film. They all still die, but this film is completely different from the first. Yeah, bat gremlin.
Well, they wrap it off.
Fights.
Dick Miller sees it outside.
Yeah.
He ends up
it
ends up dying. So they end up, that's it really. There's nothing else.
He Dick Millers it.
Off.
He gets Dick Millered. It gets thrown into cement and turns into a gargoyle. But still, like, I would have rather had all the gremlins get like the sunblock. They do nothing with it, is what I'm saying. Like that sunblock genetic splicing. If they all had that, the movie would have been completely different.
Yeah, so like this film, it's funny, and that's great. Like the comedy aspect of it is awesome, right? And I agree with you when it comes to a horror perspective. It's not really there. It kind of misses the mark for me on that. But I have to admit, there's a lot of stuff that was really funny throughout the film, especially the parodies that they had throughout the film. So there were four main ones that they have listed on a couple of different articles. Rambo, which I could easily pick up. Anybody could there. And then Phantom of the Opera, which was a really obvious one as well. But the other two, which I thought were kind of interesting, was The Wizard of Oz and then Marathon Man. Did you happen to catch any of the ones that they listed?
I didn't see Marathon Man. All I know about that's the We Can Rebuild Him guy, where they spent like the $60 billion man, basically. Is that similar to him?
That
I
sounds like it, I guess. Yeah.
I think that's him. But no, the only one I really caught was Rambo and the Phantom of the Opera. Like, then the Phantom of the Opera was just kind of like in there as a nod, just to be fun, and they added in a bunch of like New York music numbers.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The girl gremlin too. I mean, that's something we can touch on later on if we want. But
Uh,
I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
don't be afraid of how you feel.
You don't be afraid of how you feel.
I won't be. Never.
Oh man, and I love that the bad guy ends up getting stuck with her at the end. I mean, the true villain of the movie is
The
Forster.
douche.
Yeah.
Yeah, the douche who fired the cameo guy for smoking again.
Yeah, that was the writer, right? Charles Haas was the smoker, which is also really. I mean, I love whenever they do the cameos. I have 9 cameos that we counted in the film, so we'll get to those in a minute. But yeah, so a couple other things I just want to talk through about the film that I enjoyed were the infectious disease, or not infectious disease, it's the DNA splicing office, which is really where,
Right.
a lot of, I think, the craziness comes from in this movie, because that's where you get a lot of things. You get the flying gargoyle who lands in or flying gremlin gargoyle who lands
The bat
inside.
gargoyle. The bat gremlin. Yeah. How he flies with that, we'll never question.
We'll never, I mean, we should never question, I guess. But you get Sir Christopher Lee, which I think is awesome, because he's a classic horror actor as well throughout a lot of his work. He's also just
classical actor.
He's just classic in general, yeah.
Classical. He's knighted. He's a professional like theater troupe actor.
Yep.
Him same as why was I going to say Neil Patrick Harris? The guy who played the captain in the Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, Captain Picard.
Yeah, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. That guy.
Yeah,
whose name
now
I'm
drawing
spacing.
a blank as well.
welcome to my brain. Welcome to entering your 30s.
Sir
Patrick Stewart. Yes.
Patrick Stewart,
Sir
yeah.
Patrick Stewart. Yes. All those fantastic actors. And dude, I think the lab's the best part of the whole film, honestly, with the Gremlins just getting a hold of the gene splicing. Like, what was it the brain gremlin said? If they're introduced to genetic research genes, they can mutate. Just completely random. Just drinks like some vegetables, and one of them just grows vegetables and fruit out of its face and starts throwing them at the scientists. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that place too, which I think you could have maybe a whole TV show, right? Eventually about that. That would be funny. But I think his name, Christopher Lee's name in this, his character name is actually quite clever.
Catheter.
Dr. Catheter.
Yeah, I love that too.
I don't know anyone who'd want to be named Dr. Catheter, but he rocked it.
Well, he got, yeah, no, he did a great job. The monkeys in the cages, like when the gremlins were letting everything out, they would not leave their cages despite the trainers calling them out because they were so terrified of the gremlin puppets.
Dude, I wouldn't have left my cage either.
In this lab.
I would have stayed inside my cage too. Forget that.
Like, they refused.
Alvin, Theodore, and I'm assuming Simon was the other one.
Probably.
The Chipmunks. They're named after Alvin and the Chipmunks.
That's right. What was it when the animals got loose? Stay away from my such and such.
When the clone doctor is talking? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. I don't remember. They've named everything.
How's your cloning going? Good. Like that was really smart, I think, on their part to do that, to get the twins, Martin and Lewis.
Yeah, very, very classic twins.
So then another part of the film that I found very funny, because the whole security thing, you get the setup that there is a security office where they're monitoring everything on the monitors. They haven't quite seen the gremlins yet. The gremlins aren't loose in the building just yet, but Billy, Zach Galligan's character, is trying to warn Forster and that team that's going to happen. And the security team just starts kind of laughing because they're kind of talking shit, like, oh, they can't eat after midnight and you can't get them wet. What else is there? And they're just kind of berating into him, like, fact after fact after fact, which is Joe Dante's callback to basically fans of the first film and all of the things that they could come up with, and and the hypothetical situations about whether, what if they had a piece of food stuck in their mouth before 12 and then after 12 they swallowed it? Does that count? What about time zones? All that fun stuff, which I think is great because honestly, as fans, yeah, sure, that's exactly where our minds go. But then they get bit. Like the gremlin pops out of the console and then attacks the guy. And I was like, that's great. He's mocking the gremlins, and then he ends up getting bit by a gremlin, and that's how they realize that the gremlins that Zach's talking about are real. I thought that was really clever and a fun way
We
to do
never
it.
see Hyper transform, but he does. But do we see him eat food? The one that bites the guy's nose.
Yeah, I can't remember specifically if you ever see him eat it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude, I love that gremlin that bit him in the nose. that was my favorite. He was my favorite one because it's like she thinks it's Gizmo. No, it's just an ADHD Mogwai.
That poor. Oh, he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't eat food because he just stays in the goofy Mogwai phase. I don't ever think we see him go into the gremlin phase, right?
He does. He shows up with the cook who's constantly drinking alcohol.
Oh, he shows
like
up in the
microwave
pot?
with Marge. Yeah, he shows up in the pot and he's like squirting things around.
So does he eat when he's in the pot, and that's when he converts?
Maybe.
Or maybe.
Maybe.
Because I want to talk
Marge's
about that next.
delectable microwaved meals.
That's next on my list. Actually, is the chef. I think we need the chef, and I think you sent me a message too, talking about how you want that chef, like an actual show with that chef, right?
Yeah, microwave with Marge.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like she's showing them how to make like trucker microwavable food, and it's all disgusting.
It's disgusting, and she's getting drunk just as she cooks. She just keeps drinking and getting more and more drunk on camera as it cuts away and comes back to her, which I think is great. Have you ever seen a live chef when they're doing those shows that actually does drink, like during
Julia Child? She was making fun of Julia Child.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's what Julia Child does. She just drinks wine. When she was on Emerald's show back in the day, she would show up and she'd do like one thing, and then she'd sit down and drink like a giant glass of wine. Just like Paula Deen would drink a giant glass of butter juice.
That's not as tasty, I don't think, but and not the same effect. Oh no. Man. Anyways, I think her little bit during the film was great. The director yelling at them was Joe Dante, the actual director, which I thought was also really funny throughout the show. We haven't talked about Grandpa Fred at all. We might have to give him a shout out towards the end.
I thought he was the Munsters guy when I was a kid.
He is, yeah.
Thought he was Grandpa. I was like, why is Grandpa in this movie? And it took me a while to understand.
I mean, it's really funny to see. I don't know. It's funny to see him play the character in this movie of a kind of sad, washed up TV show actor kind of role, and he's not really happy with it. And then seeing him on Munsters being Grandpa, and he's super happy and lovable, and he looks like he really enjoys playing that character. It's kind of interesting choice for him. So we get 9 total cameos in the film, and I'm going to run through them and see which ones you picked up and which ones I picked up, and if you know them. I don't know. I didn't know all of these, and I had to look a couple of them up to understand why they were cameos. But first and foremost on my list is the Hulk Hogan. I'm quite sure we both know who that is.
I never saw the Hulk Hogan scene. I remember it when I was a kid. I thought I'd seen it, but every time I rented the movie, it was always John Wayne shooting the Gremlins and then making hand puppets. And so rewatching this, like recently, when I saw Hulk Hogan, I was like, "What the fuck's going on? Where's John Wayne?" Because like the Gremlins, it's terribly animated. They're shooting against John Wayne, and then they make hand puppets on the broken theater script or theater tape, and then this one we see Hulk Hogan threaten them, take his shirt off.
Yep. These people paid good money. So
they want
partial
cold drinks, hot popcorn.
I'm partial to the Hulk Hogan one just because I'm when I was younger, right at the prime of this film for me, I guess, would have been the Hulk Hogan era.
It was Hulkamania. It was Hulkamania.
So for me, the
1991.
Hulk Hogan one was a lot better. When I actually watched the VHS version for the first time, I was super confused why there was a John Wayne scene and Hulk was missing. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And I'm glad that the Amazon Prime, because that's where I watched it. I bought it on Amazon Prime. It actually has the Hulk version, not the John Wayne version, which is interesting. And I wonder if legally they have to, if Amazon has to provide you with both versions.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because the Clue just puts everything compiled, I would assume. Maybe.
Yeah, you get all the endings. And then you even have the choice for random endings with Clue, which I love. That's my favorite way to watch it. Do a random one and then be surprised at the end. Anyways, not to sidetrack us too much. The second cameo that I found was John Aston. Does the name ring a bell? Because it didn't when I first saw it.
No.
So it's Gomez Adams.
Oh, right. Gizmo says Gomez when he walks by him.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
The guy
that I
who
figured
plays.
out who it was. That was the only way.
Yeah.
Then we get Henry Gibson, who is an actor. He's been in other Joe Dante films, so that's why he's in this one as a cameo. He was in Joe Dante's film Inner Space,
Bubba Smith.
which I've never actually seen Inner Space, so now I'm thinking
It's
I
been
may
years,
need to go
man.
check that movie out.
I mean, we could even make an argument to watch it here.
There you go. The next one is Bubba Smith, who I definitely
Police
recognize
Academy.
from Police Academy, and he's also an NFL player, or it used to be an NFL player.
Yep. He
Yeah.
No, he
Then
played his
we-
character in this film.
Then we have Jerry Goldsmith, who is a famous musician. He's done a lot of
Jerry
music
Goldsmith.
work for different films.
I don't know who Jerry Goldsmith is.
So visually, you've probably never seen him, but
Yeah.
the music that he's created has been in like over 200 films or something like that. He's done work on for scores.
He did Rambo and Logan's Run, so makes sense for all the Rambo stuff.
Yeah, just for
Didn't
Gizmo's
work
random
enough,
moments.
you become more. Yeah.
And they got, the cool thing is they actually got Sylvester Stallone's approval for Gizmo to mimic John Rambo, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
Then we get
I like
one of
this.
your favorite scenes in the movie, I believe, is Leonard Maltin. He's the
Yeah. No, I love this
the
one.
famous film critic.
Yes, who panned Gremlins 1 terribly, and he shat on them completely, which they said, hey, do you want to do a cameo for this film where you basically just read your review and poop on Gremlins? And he did. And the Gremlins show up and screw with them.
Well, it's
So-
awesome because
And what did you...
he's holding a VHS copy of the film while you're watching the film, which is another fun fourth wall break right there, right?
Right. In the second movie.
Yeah.
Here they grow
So
again.
good. Then we get Charles Haas that we talked about. He's a writer actor known for Gremlins 2 primarily, but he plays the smoke break man who gets fired by Forster like right off the beginning of the movie, and Forster's a dick from that point on.
Well, if you recognize that face, he's been in quite a few TV shows and movies. He usually wears a bow tie from the face. But great. Sorry he got fired.
Shouldn't have taken that smoke break. Unauthorized smoke break. There's nothing wrong with
Unauthorized.
smoking. We just want you to do it when it's authorized.
Just do it like Marla. Just do it in the middle of the office.
Oh my God. I don't even want to. I try to avoid talking about her. Ugh. So Jason, we'll finish this up and then we'll get back to Marla. Jason Presson, who's an actor. I don't know him. I don't recognize him. And then Julia Sweeney. And this is probably my favorite one out of all of them, even though Hulk Hogan's on the list. My absolute favorite is Julia because her description on IMDb reads as benevolent, sweet-faced, actress and comedian, is normally identified with one single, highly unappetizing, androgynous character. this sniveling, chunky-framed, springy-haired, plaid shirt-wearing, grotesque-looking character named Pat. And
The whole joke behind Pat.
yeah, I loved Pat as a kid just from the not knowing perspective, like
The
trying to figure
androgyny.
out if Pat was a guy or a girl. And I mean, back then, I think that was a pretty normal thing for a kid being raised in the 90s, not really understanding gender. And now in 2020, we have way more understanding behind how genders are perceived. But Pat was definitely really funny and fun to watch back as a kid. And this is the lady who played Pat. She was the sniveling lady with the snot rag constantly sneezing in the DNA splicing office.
Julia Sweeney is a treasure, and if you ever have the chance to listen to anything she's written or one of her talks, I highly recommend it. She's very brilliant. But
yeah, to me, she's I think one of the nicest sounding characters in this movie. Like I don't know, in this film, and then in Pat even, she's just like that good wholesome type character that you always want in your movies. If you ever want just a downright no questions asked, she's going to be a good person, that's the film you would put her in, or that's who you would cast.
She did make a Pat movie, so if you want to watch that train
I have seen it.
Oh, you did?
Yes. Yes.
Oh man. So now that we're moving along here, we have all these cool talking points that we've gone through. I have a question for you, Curtis.
Sure thing.
Favorite Gremlin?
Gizmo. Always in forever. I guess
he's
not
a
a gremlin, but favorite gremlin, Gizmo.
Okay. But out of all the monsters, what's your favorite monster aside from Gizmo?
I think the digital one, the one that gets put into the electronic, gets put on hold, would be my favorite.
The electric gremlin. That one's pretty cool too.
Yeah,
I gotta say the brain one.
The brain one?
Personally. The brain one, yeah.
Yeah.
He's holding civilized conversations with Grandpa Munster, and then he just shoots another gremlin, and he's like, "Now was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun."
So I think what's even more interesting about the electric gremlin is like that was all reworked for the film, right? They had an initial ending that they wanted to do, and they decided, because they realized they had this new technology for this CGI or whatever they used for the electric. It's probably like film overlay where it's drawn on the film actually in the run, however it's done, right? They realized they had access to that technology, that ability. So they decided to rewrite this gremlin to make him an electric gremlin, which is pretty neat. He ends up playing a pivotal role in how they save the day.
Yeah, I like that actually a lot better than just dropping the sun and then having it kill everything. I liked the fact that it started raining.
Yep, that's New York for you. If you've ever been to New York. So I want to talk about Marla because you brought her up. I was going to leave her out, but since you brought her up, we can't ignore the overly acted New York accent, chain smoker. She plays a perfect role. I mean, she nailed it. She's probably every young woman in a corporate office style theme who's trying to get up that corporate ladder and prove that they're not just another girl, right? But she
loves work.
She's been in something else that I didn't realize it was her, and it kind of made me laugh when I just saw it.
Home Alone 3?
She's the mom from Home Alone 3.
Yeah. That is her.
Which I never knew it was her. Kind of actually makes me chuckle a little bit. Yeah. So fun way to wrap that around. I loved
Home Alone 3.
Did you know that Scarlett Johansson was in Home Alone 3?
I did not know, but now I do.
And we didn't.
Are we doing the 7 Degrees of Scarlett Johansson?
What? What about Scarlett?
Tim Curry in Home Alone 3?
No, we didn't get Tim Curry in Home Alone 3. Instead, we got his third cousin, Christopher Curry.
Right.
That's a terrible. Thing.
for
Tim
Curry.
Curry is in so many things I didn't realize he was in. I wish he was in Gremlins too. He could have done something really fun in Gremlins too. Well, I don't really have any other talking points or anything specific about the movie. The ending is pretty fun. I think that's one of the best parts of the movie, in my opinion. So I'd rather not lay it out all completely for our listeners. But if there's anything else specific you want to talk about, let's do it.
I just want to say that I love this movie for what it was in my childhood and nostalgia, bringing me back to it and making you watch it with me, thinking it was a New Year's Eve movie. It is not a New Year's Eve movie, but we'll start off the new year with something new when we come back, and we'll have a lot more fun coming on.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
thank you for bringing me on this adventure with you, Curtis,
I
and for
appreciate you
everybody who's
following me
listened
along.
to us. I want to tell you all that you're beautiful, and if you want to watch a fun movie with tons of monsters, watch Critters 2.
Please watch Critters 2. It's a lot more fun. Well, I think now is as good a time as any. We don't need to go over any fun facts and trivia specifically. There's some fun bits and bobs here throughout, but we've pretty much hit all the main ones. One that always gets kind of left out is the Howie Mandel being the voice of Gizmo. For a long time, people tried to say it was someone else who voiced Gizmo. But Howie Mandel finally set the record straight, I think, about 10 years ago and was like, no. It was me. I did all the voices. But he not only did them in English, but he did them in all the languages that you needed them for the different releases. And there's a really cool, on the original Gremlins film, there's a really cool special, whatever it's called, for basically you get to listen to Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Joe Dante, and Howie Mandel talk about the film as you're watching it.
Howie Mandel even as
And
Gizmo.
Howie Mandel ends up telling you a really fun story about how he voiced all the different languages for Gizmo and all the different things that he says. And it's great.
I love Howie Mandel's a great guy. I'd
He
hang
is.
out with him. I'd buy him a.
Sadly, I don't think he'd hang out with any of us because we're too dirty for him. He's got his cleanliness OCD that he battles every day.
Obsessive compulsive disorder is a hard thing.
It is.
And I wish him the best.
But I feel for him. Yeah, I wish him the best. So let's go ahead and skip fun facts and trivia for now. Let's move to the what have you been up to lately? Have you done anything at the end of the year that you want to talk about, that you want to tell the people to go do or check out or listen to?
So I am coming back to my podcast Full Circle. I've been trying to figure out like what to do with it, and I have some things planned on the personal side, but nothing yet, and I'll announce that when it's ready. But otherwise, most everything I've been doing has been setting up goals and figuring out what I'm going to do for the new year. And this year, it's going to be a huge focus on just getting good at what I have instead of looking for more and looking to do more. It's trying to consolidate and take a breath, look at where I am, look at the energy. Like, and I know it's like everybody's like, okay, energy. Yeah, like the energy in the room. Like, what do I need to do? What can I do better to, I don't know, be a better person, and as well as do better in the situations I'm already in instead of looking for a different situation. Just improve where I am. So that's where my brain is, Curtis. How about you?
It never hurts to self-reflect. I like that. So as for myself, so I did briefly mention earlier in the episode that I had to take some time off for personal reasons. It's actually because my wife, my 7-year-old daughter, and my 7-month-old son all ended up. The kids both tested positive for COVID. My daughter contracted it through her school from a teacher who the school did not inform anyone had tested positive. So that was pretty stressful right before holiday break. We kept her out of the last week of school, and then the entire week of Christmas, everyone was pretty much beat up. I was tired, run down, stressed out. Pretty much didn't turn on any of my like recording or editing or anything. So we're, obviously behind on releasing these episodes, but this is the week of New Year's, and we should be dropping, we should have just dropped an episode probably either yesterday or the day before that for The Babadook. So if you haven't listened to that one, check it out. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on that film, because it does seem on the Twitterverse, the horror fans are kind of just like meh on it. It's an okay movie. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just kind of meh. And as a parent, my perspective, I feel like that movie's actually a lot better than people give it credit for. So check it out. But as for this episode, it should be released New Year's or the day after New Year's. So we appreciate you guys. This is the season finale of season 2. And after this season, Clark and I discussed taking a bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a break, to kind of think about how we want to do the show moving forward for season 3. We've done a lot of effort in creating content for YouTube, but it's not up to my standard, like what I would expect from a YouTube show. I want it to be, if we're gonna continue with YouTube, I'd like it to look nicer, right? The quality of it to be a lot better. And pumping out episodes week after week is super easy when it's just audio. But then when you throw in video editing, and I have a regular 9-to-5 job, and my own personal hobbies and a family and all that stuff, Clark and I have been talking about this. It's just a lot harder to do a YouTube show and the regular podcast weekly. So we're just floating some ideas, talking about possibly moving to bi-weekly, doing one movie every 2 weeks, which would be a lot easier on our schedules, and still allow us to do the things that we want to do in our personal lives and whatnot. So we're not too sure exactly how long of a hiatus we might take. But I promise, if you reach out to us on Twitter, I'll always be there to communicate. On Instagram, Clark's got that covered. And we're definitely excited to end this year. It's 2020 obviously ending, 2021 starting. But here's the deal. In my opinion, you can't just say, let's get 2020 over with and move on to 2021 because it's going to be better. The year is going to be what we make it. What we make it personally, what we make it with our friends, what we make it with our work, whatever it may be. You decide how 2021 is going to be. Personally, I didn't have that bad of a year in 2020. I had a new son. We got a new dog. My job's going great. I got a promotion. Not everyone has that same story, though. So don't let me tell you, it's not like I won the lottery and anyone can win the lottery, okay? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, you get out of your year what you put into your year. So if you put out good, positive vibes, and you kick your ass and you bust your ass and you try to do the best that you can be and be the best person that you can be, then maybe 2021 will be the best year you've ever had in your life, and you'll rebound from 2020 and you'll be amazing. But I can guarantee you, if you just sit back and you're woe is me and everything sucks all the time and it's super negative and toxic and whatever, your 2021 is going to be just as shitty as 2020 might have been. So it's up to you. It's on you. It's on you and how you treat it. So just want to kind of throw that out there.
Right there.
What was that?
That's some life advice right there.
Yeah. Just kind of my way of wrapping up 2020 personally. And those are the thoughts that I've been having. I always like to self-reflect in the last month of the year, and really, the holidays to me is enjoying my family, spending time with my family. And, we were unable to really do any of that this year. And not because, not just because we had COVID, but we weren't going to be doing it anyways, because some of our family members don't practice social distancing. They don't wear masks, things like that. So just for us, the holiday wasn't going to be normal, whatever normal is anyways.
It's rough, man.
But 2021, man. We can change it
20
in our own lives individually, which will hopefully pan out and make it a better year for everybody.
Yeah. And even if you screw it up, the year starts when you say, man. A year is a year. It's not real. It's just something we've defined.
You don't have to follow the calendar. Exactly.
Yeah. Take care of yourself. Be happy.
Yes. I think the biggest thing I want, I think both of us would agree on this, is everyone be safe, stay healthy, and do what makes you happy. Don't do what everybody else is doing just because. This is the same old thing you'll hear anywhere from any good positive talk, is do what makes you happy. Don't worry about what other people think, what other people say. Forget them. Just have fun. But yeah, on that note, you know our social medias. We're going to say goodbye. Have a happy new year, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.
Thanks for hanging out.
At the end of the day, this film is just, WB wanted a sequel. Joe Dante was like, okay, I'll take some money and I'll make it more fun because that's what I want to do with it instead of actually making a sequel to Gremlins. And this is what we got.